Hi Santosh,
Hi.
Welcome to Detox, the design podcast.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here and to have you here, both of us. Like I said, even before we were going in for the shoot, both transportation designers,
Right.
but none of us are actually doing what co-transportation designers do. The irony of it, but very, very glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting us. Me, my team, actually, we are really an honor to be on this podcast.
Thank you.
And hopefully get out a design perspective
Yes.
on what Earthentunes is and how we are here where we are.
Right. Absolutely. So, Earthentunes, the name of your company, roughly 5.5 years plus into it?
4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, we'll be 5 by this August.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Amazing, quite a journey you've had, and I'd like to break it down and get into the ups and downs of that journey.
Sure.
But before that, I want to also understand like how your journey has been, because coming from a completely mechanical perspective, like mechanical engineering perspective, like I also had that same journey,
Right.
and I'd love to know a little about how you got into design. How did you even start thinking about design?
So just before I start, I want to say that I'm representing my team, my
Right.
awesome
Of course.
co-founders Nakul and Vidyadhar.
Yes.
And whatever I speak is just that I'm the spokesperson, nothing more.
Right.
But if not, my two co-founders and my team have contributed more than what I have. Having said that, yeah, coming to the question, all three of us do come from an engineering background. I myself have done electronics and instrumentation from BITS.
Right.
Nakul had done his electronics and instrumentation from Mumbai. And similarly, Vidyadhar was an automotive engineer from Maharashtra as well. Now, typically in engineering, you do look for placement. It's not necessary that it's passion driven.
Yeah.
For us, engineering is the base degree, right?
Right.
You get that and then you do whatever you want. So typical there, I slogged from almost sixth. I lived in an environment where IIT was the only goal in life. I was never up to it, to be honest. I was surrounded by extremely so-called brilliant guys who were solving very complex mathematical problems at probably by 7th standard. Right, I know these kids who were solving bank exam
Entrance
books,
exams,
right?
yeah.
And then quantitative aptitude, so on and so forth. I was just a kid in awe that I'm nowhere close. But then, I guess rubbing shoulders with these people does have an impact.
Right.
By the time we were in 11th and 12th, we were attempting Olympiad questions, and we had already given mock tests like 1,000,000 times. And then JEE happened. I couldn't crack it. I was in so-called the extended merit list at that point of time, but I was never really made for IIT, I believe, and I think BITS was the right place for me.
Right.
BITS has a very different environment, and I got to study in Goa, which is for many people a dream to be in. And
Now I'm a little jealous.
although I have a very different perspective of what Goa is, and having been there for 4 years, I know that people have really wrong notions of what Goa is actually.
Yeah.
It was great. Engineering was good. The cool thing about BITS is for even future aspirants, if you're looking for an engineering college, BITS is the best place to be because it has zero attendance. Zero attendance required. Yes,
Really?
I'm not kidding. You can go through the whole semester without attending a single class.
Oh wow.
Right. So what that gave us is to explore things beyond a conventional thing. I actually, when people were going for their C programming after their first year, I went to learn Photoshop.
Oh.
Right, and I learned in a place called Arena Animation, which is in Amirpet. Right.
Yeah.
People thought I was crazy, and that it was of no use. And there also I was searching for avenues where design could play a role. And ironically, I did not know that you could make a living out of design, and there's actually a formal education for it.
Right.
So I was getting into these graphic design stuff.
Right.
There's this department of publicity where anything which is related to design, I would pounce on it. Right. And But having said that, I think looking back, having an engineering degree is a boon, because you not only look at it from an aesthetic standpoint or an emotional standpoint, you also know when to switch on and switch off the logical mind as well. So yeah, I was a lot into gaming, which also will play a role. It'll also probably kind of molded my mindset on not being perturbed by challenges.
Right.
Gaming builds that this thing. Then I explored sports, and it was recession during the time we were graduating. So people said they painted a very bleak picture. They said, you're not going to get placed. You have to learn other stuff beyond your core engineering to have this thing. So we slogged around, and finally, but turns out that BITS has a very good brand, and I ended up having 5 placements actually in some of the top companies.
Oh, wow.
So I had offers from Aditya Birla, IBM, Cognizant,
Nice.
Infosys, but then I picked a PSU because my father also worked in a PSU, so I got placed in Bharat Petroleum.
Right. Yeah.
They were paying way beyond any other company was paying at that point of time.
Right.
And from all conventional terms, my family was very happy. They felt settled,
Yeah.
and even I was very happy because
Right.
it's a great company to work. And after slogging for 4 years,
So 4 years at Bharat Petroleum you worked?
No. I'm saying 4 years prior to engineering.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'll just tell you an interesting story before I ended up in Bharat Petroleum.
Right.
So BITS offers what is known as practice school, which is basically internship. And I think 700 companies get themselves registered so that they could take students from BITS, right? And I'm pretty sure it's much higher now. This I'm talking a decade, more than not even a decade, 2011 is what I'm talking. And they gave this list, and you need to give a priority. Like you need to give what is your sequence of what company you would prefer to join.
Oh, wow.
And based on your CGPA, it gets automatically assigned. So I again went for design-based thing against all my parents saying not to do it. And I ended up in this small startup in Mumbai, which was about web designing. And they were paying me a very meager stipend.
Okay.
My father was extremely furious. He said, why did you even opt for this? And I said, it's fine. And then Bombay, first time coming out of home, living alone. BITS is a different thing. It's a controlled environment, right?
Yeah.
So my parents were terrified, and my father accompanied me to Bombay to search for a place to live.
Right.
I started working there. It was in a very, Bombay, once you see there, you understand the value of space, right? Everything is small, compact. I went there, I started working, and a couple of months into the internship, the CEO calls us in, me and another bunch of interns. That's the first time we are meeting him. And he says, guys, our journey ends here. We are closing down, or we are rather, you could say, downscaling our operations because we did not receive the next lot of funding.
Oh.
If you want, you can work with us, but we cannot pay you. Crazy. Ironically, he hadn't even paid us for those 2 months we were there, right?
Okay.
And we helped build the whole website at that point of time.
Right.
So we were in a panic. We called BITS and we said, this is what is happening and you need to help us out.
Right.
And then they linked us to Aditya Birla Retail, which is another company in Mumbai, the back end of more stores.
Yeah.
And these people were open. They said, we wanted interns from BITS and we are very happy you've come. They paid us double of what was being offered to us.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. The office was fancy in comparison to the startup.
Of course.
And by the end of the internship, they really loved my work and they offered me a PPO, which is a pre-placement offer.
Yeah.
Then I went back to my college I was confident that, I can crack interviews. And as I said, I had like this 5 offers. And then Bharat Petroleum was a step, quite an upgrade from everything. So it's a company with a lot of resources. They train you. The training goes on for 9 months in very.
Wow.
And the whole environment is of respect because you are for a organization and you deal with a lot of people every day.
Right.
And as a young guy of 21 receiving that lot of respect and having that amount of power is actually very rewarding. So I was in Chennai for about 8 months during my training, and then they liked what I was doing, and they made me one of the youngest automation head in the country at that point of time.
Oh, wow.
I was handling whole Karnataka,
Okay.
and I was looking at what is now known as IoT and data analytics and
Right.
business intelligence. So I was doing that almost in 2011-12 without knowing the jargon.
Oh, nice.
And I was helping automate all the petrol pumps so that there is no, you could say, cheating that happens on the consumer end. You know, that he's not given the amount of petrol that he's paid, or that, you know, there are other kind of interesting things that happen in the field, which is very interesting, and how you try to solve that with technology.
Yeah.
And that point of time also, the whole petroleum industry also was going through a rebranding, where they're trying to show that we are here to serve you, we are not here to cheat you. So there were initiatives like Pure for Sure, Platinum, and a lot of very cool stuff. And that was when I would spend, I would say almost 60% of my time on field. And you know, generally when we study engineering, you want to get a cozy job in the office with AC and all that stuff. That actually completely changed. I started enjoying interacting with these people. I stayed in Tamil Nadu. I learned how to speak in Tamil. Then when I was in Karnataka, I picked up Kannada, and I started enjoying with people on field, because you get to see and learn stuff which is not written anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And which again tied into what we learned later down in life. I think you connect the dots, right? Then,
of course.
So I was enjoying my time in Bharat Petroleum, and they were giving me, really, they were treating me very well. You generally don't get to stay in a metro at the early stage in your career in Bharat Petroleum. They generally limit you to the tier 2, because they want you to come from ground up.
Right.
But I had those privileges, and it was very cool. I thought I'll only leave Bharat Petroleum if I get a chance to pursue design. And I came to know about design only when I was in Bharat Petroleum, where I heard that there's an institute called NID, where you could pursue automotive design.
So, help me understand this a bit. You said you were at Bharat Petroleum, where the petroleum industry was building its brand, right? And you were in different states and cities, working on field. So how did you even encounter design when you're working in such a core field, right, in the engineering side of it? So how did you even encounter design?
So my Mavia, like, he's been very pivotal in like guiding, mentoring, and even to this day, he's always been supporting Earthentunes as well in various capacities. And at that point of time also, he was there to help out. So I went and told him that, you know, I'm looking at something like this, and you know, cars has been a passion. He knew about it anyway. He said, is there something we could do just to, you know, is there like a course that I could do? I'll come back.
Yeah.
So then he pulled some strings, he spoke to some people, and then I got to interact with a designer from GM.
Oh, okay.
A gentleman by the name of Anil Seni.
Right.
He said there is a career you can make out of it, and there are courses that are offered actually.
Oh, interesting.
And I was supposed to meet him in person, but that did not happen. But he said, you know, there's a course for transportation design. It is offered by a lot of colleges around the world, and there are a couple of colleges in India who are known for it, where there's an NID and IDC, which is IIT Bombay.
Right.
He said there's an entrance, you need to crack it. But he gave me a disclaimer. He said, people who get in itself, you need some level of craziness. To succeed, you need to be even more crazier. Right. So don't assume it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And then I told my parents that this is what I want to do. And, you know, even though they're very supportive, they were a bit skeptical, because as I told, right, for them, like, Bharat Petroleum is where it is. My dad worked in BHL for 40 years, and this is even better company than that. And he said, think about it, we are there. But then among our relatives, it wasn't very well received. They thought there were rumors running around that I ran away, and I quit without telling my parents, you know, so on and so forth.
Right.
And so I did attempt. I gave one attempt, and I only got till the studio round. But then that whole experience, that exam, was something very fascinating.
Yeah.
Here I come from a background which is math, physics, chemistry. You know that questions are going to be asked in a way like, for example, if Ram buys 20 watermelons, which has no real relevance, what will he do when he sells 5 watermelons?
Right.
But here comes an exam which is very practical.
Yeah.
For example, there are questions in NID entrance exam. I urge people who are listening to this podcast to, just for the sake of it, go and attempt the exam.
Yeah.
It is such a fun experience writing a design entrance, which you would also know.
Yeah.
Where there are questions like, imagine you're an ant in a kitchen and just imagine what the ant would see and draw it from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like baffled, wow, this is the way you can, and I thoroughly enjoyed those 3 hours, and I never really cared whether I got in. And then I got selected for studio test. In fact, I did not write the first round of NID very well. I hardly answered 2 questions. I thought I'll not get in.
Oh wow.
I still remember I just threw the hall ticket away. But then I got into the studio test. I went there, and then that was even more mind-boggling.
Yeah, different.
I saw the automotive studio. Then there was this psychometric test, this interview, and then they asked me to draw this large industrial vehicle where they bought it and they asked us to sketch.
Right.
So that's when I learned that there's outside of engineering, there's like this whole new world actually, right? And I didn't get through. But then I decided this is something where I want to be.
You got the taste of it.
Yes, and I knew this is where I want to be.
Right.
So I renewed my attempt, I came back, I practiced even more, and I was sure I want to get in. So next year I wrote the studio test, the entrance exam went very well.
Right.
And then I went till the studio test, second round, where I did not do that well in some other round, but then the interview, the panel was interesting. They asked me, you have this job and what is that you want to do coming to NID? I told them I want to set up a design consultancy firm. And they said, that's interesting. Can you broaden on that, elaborate on that a bit? So I at that point of time, I gave the example of Pininfarina. I said, I want to be something like that in India, where we design anything from a pen to a car. So then the interview panel is asked, that's cool, but we are not teaching you how to make pens and all here.
Yeah.
You might learn about automotive. So how are you going to do that? So I said, I'll hire people. I'll get the best designers and I'll work with them.
Right.
I believe they really like that answer. And they said, okay, it does look positive.
Right.
So, and then later on when I joined NID, I learned that they look for a cohort to be as diverse as possible.
Yes.
So they wanted this guy from managerial background, a guy from core product design.
Yeah. Right.
So then I quit Bharat Petroleum. And
how
then
was that? But after you made it to NID even.
Yeah.
But how was that? Like quitting and resistance?
Yeah, I think my people around me were concerned that you're leaving something very comfortable and you might regret it.
Yeah.
Some of my family members still say that do you regret, do you want to go back? No, for me it is like going to a place where I love, and I don't think I regret it at all. In fact, if anything, that experience was enriching, where leadership, talking to people, management, data.
Right.
I learned that, and that's helping me now as well.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And so I think it was July or June, I think, where you're asked to report to NID.
Okay.
And I still remember, like, there were a lot of inspirational songs I used to listen to inspire myself to get into NID, and then I was playing all of that through when I was reaching the campus.
Right.
And then I went there, and it was every bit that I imagined and even better. Like, you had these cohort of 100 like-minded people, lot more color than what you would see in an engineering college.
Right.
Very well dressed, right? And I was really a fish out of water there. Very poor dressing sense, very poor aesthetical sense. And then I met my cohort from transportation guys. Interestingly, transportation is predominantly male driven, right?
Predominantly. Yes.
And like, looking back, I think that's what NID really taught me, is to be humble, because unfortunately this this IIT kind of thing teaches you to be elitist,
Hmm.
right? You only gauge a person once you understand which college you are from. अच्छा ये तो local college से है.
हाँ.
Uh, and I truly regret my behavior at that time. When I met these people, I would think I'm above them. I come from an elitist college. I worked in a large organization, and unfortunately, for some time, only that was my identity. I studied from an XY college, and I worked in this, which I think even irritated my friends to some extent. But then that is where you see these guys, right? They don't come from your background, but they're much better than you. They understand 3D well. They sketch better than you. I thought you could get through NID by just speaking, but there actually your presentation or your speech holds the least value.
Yeah.
Your work should talk.
Yeah.
So I know these guys who couldn't even converse well in English, but they were extremely good. They understood brands. They could sketch cars. So then I was slowly bent back into shape. I thought I need to shut up and listen. And then there's this unique culture in NID where there's vibrant interaction with your seniors.
Yeah.
It's called interaction. There's a whole culture about it where they first get you to a level where you understand that you're all equal.
Right.
And the only way you can learn is from each other, not that the college or some faculty is going to uplift.
Yeah.
So they build this sense of community, friendship.
Right.
This interaction, it creates this, they put pressure on you and you start uniting as a batch.
Yeah.
I know even to this day the full names along with their surnames of each of my batchmates, where they are from and what are all these projects they have worked on. Right? And coming from this very introverted behavior in bits to this place where it's all about community, you don't care about which state they are from, right? It's all about the work you're talking about.
Right.
And I personally made this habit that I would go and speak to people and just ask, what is it you're working on? And I was just blown away with the kind of work people are doing. 100 people doing 100 unique stuff.
Right.
So NID, just to give you a perspective, our campus was in Gandhinagar. There were, I think, 8 disciplines other than transportation design. People from new media, apparel, toy, lifestyle accessory, all of them doing mind-blowing work.
Amazing.
Right? So that's when I realized that I have learned nothing from NID, from engineering. So few days into NID, I realized that it's actually a full reset, and whatever knowledge I've gained over past few years is actually of no use. This is something different, this is something new, and I need to come out of this rubbish that I was being bogged down.
Huge unlearning curve there.
Huge unlearning. And once you accept it that you don't know anything, then you'll start enjoying. Right? So
you drop that baggage with you that you have.
Yeah, I think it's essential, and now it is more easy. I think now these loops are smaller. You learn, you forget it, or rather you put it in the background. You don't carry that baggage that I'm so and so, you learn again.
Yeah.
I think that way you enjoy the work a lot more, and a lot of opportunities open up. So for example, I often see this in technology where they would compartmentalize themselves, saying that I learned Python or I'm a data analyst and that's what I'll do. I know that the world is looking for specializations, I understand that, but then there are enough examples of people getting frustrated with it and they would realize that I want to change a career. Design doesn't require you to do that. You learn the basics and then you can address any problem. And this is not just me saying. I've spoken to really top level designers from Harvard. I've said designing is the only job on the planet where you can wake up day and say, chalo, I'll do this.
Well, that basically means that it's very interconnected, right? Design is very interconnected. I mean, look at you, for example. We'll come to what you're doing right now in a bit, but just to bring it up and plug it in here and to explain this interconnectedness, that we did transportation design that was a little different from what we're doing now.
Coming back to the aspect of a designer being able to wake up and do what he does is, I think that's the basics that they teach you, of that you can be fluid enough because it is not about a specific competency, but it is understanding holistically. And also, like as I was mentioning, I saw my batchmates, like for example, my co-founder, like Nakul, like he is inherently very natural with materials. So I went and asked him, like, did you take any course? He said, no, I just learned it by observing. Then my other co-founder, Vidyadhar, he's also very good with sculpting. Again, he comes from an engineering background.
Right.
That's where I learned that not everything that you are good at needs to be learned from a book. In fact, I would have arguments with like batchmates, कि ये कहाँ लिखा है? They would say कि कहीं नहीं लिखा है, हमने observe किया है.
Right.
I think you need to give more value to your observation and intuition rather than what is written. I think that's what design process also talks about, right? You give more emphasis on primary research and you call literature research as secondary review. Secondary research.
Exactly.
So that's the whole flipping, right? In engineering, it is what is written is only what you can follow.
Yeah, it's the other way.
I think that's constraining because there's so much that is not documented, so much we still, in fact, once you start reading these research papers and all, you realize that actually we don't know anything. A lot of it still needs to be observed and experienced, right? It's, for example, how to swim. I cannot give you in literature how to swim. Right? I cannot give you in 7 steps. You have to go and jump in water and learn. I think real world problem solving is like that. There is no one manual for it. And if you truly embrace the process, it's about going, experiencing it, failing, and then solving.
Right.
I was coming to design process where we were told to observe how to tie a shoelace for 1 week.
Oh.
Okay. Like, and
that's interesting.
Yeah, like that's how they teach you. They say they'll give you the most mundane activities which you have been doing since your lifetime. You believe, अरे ये तो हमने किया है, ये तो हमने observe किया है, we can give solutions straight away. You know what were the activities that are given to our batch? How to brush teeth, how to make a toast, how to tie a shoelace, how to fill a bottle of water.
Oh wow.
Okay. And they would say go observe, and we would have review every in first half and second half. And we had this very senior faculty from NID who would see through your bullshit straight away. They would say, they would ask you this one question and you would realize that you actually haven't observed. So for example, I remember we had this very senior faculty called Siddharth. And he was reviewing my friend who was explaining how we brush teeth. Okay?
Right.
So he said, sir, हम brush लेते हैं फिर paste लगाते हैं. And he asked him, paste कैसे लगाते हैं? Left से right, right to left. And he was baffled for some time. And then he generally bullshit, right? And through the answer he found कि नहीं आपने observe नहीं किया, वापस जाइए करके आइए. And through this process you would do it first, then you would get frustrated, and then you would have this rage कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, मुझे कुछ नहीं आता.
Right.
And then you start moving to the next phase where you start seeing solutions. So this curve or this journey every designer needs to go through, where you first get out all the nonsense that's in your brain and you realize that actually it has no value, and you start observing the activity. Can you realize that as a 21-year-old you are observing how to brush again? And I can assure you, you go and ask anyone of any of these routine activities that they're doing and ask them to find 3 problem statement, 3 problems, they cannot. They'll give you very obvious ones. And this ties into innovation actually.
Actually.
People believe that everything that needs to be done in the industry, let us say brushing, is done. And then there comes a new product which redefines it. What is that they're doing? They're finding the small gap. And they're, solving it.
That's actually the sort of questions that they ask in the exams. That's also, even in the interviews, they throw something very simple.
Yes.
I mean, it looks simple. It's very common. Part of the things that I also keep mentioning to the aspirants and people, that you need to observe things, and this is on a whole other level actually when you're sitting at NID observing all these activities. That's interesting.
And what you also learn during this time is, I think that's what NID also checks, is how open you are to learning. In fact, I know instances where people who were super skilled did not get into NID because they felt that they are not in a state of mind
Yeah.
where NID could add value to them. They are already
Right.
probably, they are there.
Right.
So they look at this very fine balance that you have skills but not too much, and you are still open-minded. And especially considering it's a master's degree where you already gone through 4 years of something else,
Yeah.
it is much more important that they gauge this.
Yes.
And
It's very important.
so even when we look for candidates to work for our company,
Right.
it's not specifically the skills that we look at.
Right.
We look at how open they are to learning, because anyway the problems we are trying to solve don't have any specific framework to start.
Yeah.
You have to be humble and say, I'm willing to learn, and let us go to the field and understand. So yeah, 2 years, this design process was like eye-opening for us, and then we start, then design thinking becomes part of your daily living, right? Anything they ask you to solve or look at, you start questioning that, is there a problem statement, or is there something that I'm missing? Are there people whom I can talk to better understand this? Right? So for example, second year is very automotive, where again it's like you're living the dream of having this bunch of guys, you're discussing what a Ferrari looks like, which year was it, what are the styling cues, who designed this. That was a different experience altogether. So one of my projects was designing future Royal Enfield for 2040 or something. So I remember it was a styling oriented project, which you would know. But I went and met Royal Enfield groups. I went and met riders to understand what Royal Enfield means to them emotionally. So I made these very rudimentary questionnaires. I would go and sit with them. And then I learned that, there's an emotion attached to it. So they would give me these very beautiful quotes. I'm old, but Royal Enfield keeps me young. Or, it's not bullet, it's bolt. So these kind of stuff, right? And that played a role in how you would style the whole.
So when you say that you're looking at things that or let's say you realize that okay, there are people that you can talk to and understand what problems they are facing, that sort of boils down to what you're doing right now. Right, with your company and the initiative, you spent quite a bit of time of your life and your effort into it. So I want to slowly get into that and understand that after you graduated from NID, right? So what happened after that, and how did you choose this path of, starting something of your own? I do see that in your journey when you were sitting at the NID's interview and you're telling them that, okay, I'll get the best designers and start my own thing. So there are hints of entrepreneurial thinking that were there before that. Before you even joined NID. So how did that journey pan out, and how did that thought, I want to understand the first time that you actually thought, okay, this is a problem that needs attention, let's say.
So this kind of transformation happened during my graduation project. So we were applying to various places. Honestly, I did not get through to any of these larger studios. We got this offer from a startup in Mumbai, me and my other batchmate. So the company had two briefs. You had to design an electric wheelchair and electric bicycle. Me and my batchmate both of us were into two-wheelers. So we went to that firm thinking only we'll work on the electric bicycle. We are not interested in the wheelchair. But 2-3 months into the internship, we realized that only one can work. So my other batchmate took up bicycle, and I'll be very honest with you, very reluctantly I went to the wheelchair project. But then slowly I started getting into it, and we started doing primary research. I went to this place called AIIPMR in Mumbai, which is All India Institute for Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. It's in a place called Haji Ali. And apparently there are only 2 of them in India, where any person who is specially able needs to come there to get certified that he is specially able, so that he can avail the benefits. So I wanted to meet someone there, and I was waiting in the lobby for 2 hours or so, and then I started observing. That's first time actually I started observing. Then I realized actually there's nothing happening for assistive space. People coming in these very, very old rusted wheelchairs, extremely old people. And I think in that 1-2 hours I decided I'll switch from having this dream of styling to doing something for India. It happened in that lobby for me personally.
Wow.
I realized that I'll do something in this domain. So next couple of months we interacted with a lot of people from the specially abled community, and then we realized that the wheelchair that we see common, right, that the two smaller ones and two behind, that's a design from something from late 1800s, and it hasn't changed.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I never actually thought about that wheelchair.
Now there is good engineering in that wheelchair.
Right.
It's there are reasons why it is still, but for a country like India, where there are different diversities, different terrains, different conditions, one wheelchair cannot suffice. Okay, and we started using the wheelchair also, and we realized that there are a lot of flaws. And there's aspect of electric wheelchairs which actually are mandatory for some types of disabilities. The types of spinal cord injuries which require you to use a electric wheelchair. You cannot use a manual wheelchair. And when we started getting into this electric wheelchair thing, I realized that first thing is we don't have any innovation. Most of it comes from China or from the European. They're extremely expensive. And when you get to maintain an electric wheelchair, if you want to buy spares, they would cost as much as 60% of the original cost of the wheelchair itself.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are all the...
Interesting.
Yeah. And also, since India is not a wheelchair friendly nation, we are still in, we have a campaign called Accessibility India, but a lot of limitations. For example, even this place where we are sitting is not wheelchair friendly. It doesn't have ramps, it doesn't have, curbs which are less than 1 inch.
Right.
So there were initiatives to change infrastructure, but we came from a different perspective. We said we cannot wait for the infrastructure to change. You need to come up with a wheelchair which can go through these terrains. And this also got fortified when we started meeting these people with spinal cord injuries who did not go out because they knew that going out would be a lot of hassle for them to traverse with the existing wheelchair that they have. And that was leading to other issues, like for example, they were feeling depressed, they were becoming introverted, there were social anxiety issues.
Right.
So when a person becomes disabled, his family that is dependent on him also gets crippled. Of course, the earning opportunities become very less, and he himself is psychologically impacted. So I've met people who after their injuries did not just come out. And of course there's social taboo and log kya bolenge and all that stuff. And that severely impacted their physiology. So I know one of this person who had this accident during paragliding. Paragliding actually does cause a lot of spinal cord injuries, and after that he was so limited to his bed, he did not get exposed to sun. That led to vitamin D deficiency, that led to osteoporosis.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But all of it is not grim. I have met extremely motivated people after their injuries. In fact, they're motivational speakers, they've done phenomenal jobs. So I've met both of them. And these people also come up from this mindset that you don't need to sympathize with me. Right? Build us something which makes us included in the society. Where they don't need to be spoken about ki nahi beta, everything will be okay. They don't need that actually. So these are other things also, like the subtler points that we learned. Again, a lot of unlearning. I used to go to the marathons and all that stuff where we had these like people who had setbacks in their life, but they came back even stronger. So anyway, coming back to we started experimenting. Can we come up with a wheelchair which can traverse these harsh Indian conditions, these curbs, this uneven terrain? And I built, I think, about 5 prototypes. And this I had to show as my graduation project. And we had some bare bones of something interesting happening. So we came up with this 3-wheeled architecture where, generally a normal wheelchair, the bigger wheels are behind, the smaller wheels are in the front, right? That you cannot go on a curb because the smaller wheel is and also these 4-wheeled wheelchairs have a tendency to get stuck They'd form this tripod. If there's a pothole, they'll just get stuck there and they'll lose traction. So we came up with this new architecture where the bigger wheels are in the front and they are powered.
Okay.
And you have the smaller wheels behind, so they would actually go on
Right.
listening. We just had these bare bones of this thing. I presented this to the jury. They really loved the work and they said, please pursue this. Don't go to a conventional job.
Right.
So I took that, and again the next 1 year we built 16 prototypes, and we started taking this three-wheeled architecture seriously. We built a wheelchair that is 70% from bicycle parts. It was actually developed in a small shed in Goregaon and a small cycle shop adjacent to that. It was completely built there.
Oh wow.
And it could climb gradients as high as 30 degrees, having people weighing 100 kgs.
30 degrees?
30 degrees. We tested it on a slope in Bandra, where it was
That's amazing.
ridiculous, yeah. And it could still go up and come down.
That's amazing. I mean, 16 prototypes in 1 year, right? That's what you mentioned.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of iterations.
Lot of iterations.
Going back, feedback, going back. That loop is like pretty strong here that you've seen. And how did you manage to test it out? Like, that would have been challenging?
It was. So we would do testing, but this three-wheel architecture is very, very, very difficult to handle. So it had like a free-rolling caster behind. And it had some interesting challenges. It would never go in a straight line.
Wow. That's a big challenge.
So we had these tiles, and we had therapists who would come and test. And they said, कि wheelchair अच्छा है, but मैं देख रहा हूँ कि ये सीधा नहीं जा रहा है. And I came back and I told this to my founder. We were in the founders. And he just
panicked.
He said, कि क्या करे? Well, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So then my future co-founders, I asked them for help. I called Vidyadhar, and he came and worked for 1.5 months on this. So we solved a couple of problems in that. I think we were able to get like a caster bias. So basically the caster doesn't roam freely. We got some bias.
Right.
And Vidyadhar came up with a novel way of folding actually. He came up with this mechanism by which you can put it in an auto rickshaw also.
Oh wow.
Yeah, very compact.
Very nice.
And also during this time, I told you, right, we were working on this with workshop and cycle.
Yeah.
There again, we had this interaction with geniuses who are not educated. People who were so hands-on, they would come up with these solutions. If I had given this to an engineer, he would struggle. Like for example, this caster bias mechanism, it did not make it to the final design, which we went into production, but we came up with this mechanism which is bearing based. I went and discussed with him. He said, I have some ideas, but let us wait. There's one more guy who will come. So we met with another guy who came. We had a discussion, and I kid you not, he gave me the solution in 5 minutes. He drew the sketch and he said, "This is what you need to do."
Oh, wow.
And I was just blown away.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. Again, I don't know anything actually. So this guy in the workshop, he's a guy named Singh. Not formally educated. He came to Bombay when he was 16 years old, where typically, and he started working in a welding shop. He is one of the most geniuses I have met. He would come up with a mechanism very quickly. And you know what his speciality was? You send him a photograph, he'll replicate that design in a span of 1 to 2 days.
That's insane.
And that's how their whole business would run.
Yeah.
So this guy was a specialist in fabricating wheelchairs to a local business guy.
Right.
So the business guy would go to tours around the world, click photos and send to him. He would reverse engineer all of them just from a photograph.
That is insane.
So interestingly, I took my Watson kids there. I made him, I made sure that they interacted with him.
Right.
And to understand that real genius is not in IITs. It's in places like these.
Right. The local knowledge.
Yes, insane guys.
Yeah.
So that will again tie in when I'll talk about the shoe journey of how we learned from the community.
Right.
So we made this right now. And then later Nakul also worked on the joystick design. Electric wheelchairs have joysticks. So we came up with this completely novel a solution. There was actually an engineer also in the team. In fact, there were a couple of engineers in the team. They came up with the internals, and then Nakul designed the whole.
Yeah.
And around this time, we realized that all three of us can work together very well. Although we did work together during NID, we started seeing that just three of us working together, we had this rapport, and we would get stuff. I don't need to explain to him. They would just get it. It's almost like telepathic. They would get it. I just need to tell ye karna hai. They would say, yeah, we'll do it. Okay. And interestingly, we have a global patent with that wheelchair. It's called IBEX. You can look it up.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So during that period of time, this idea got funded by IIT Bombay. It was incubated. We were funded by Government of Maharashtra. We represented Government of Maharashtra at the trade fair in Delhi. We met at that point of time the government, who offered us land and funding as well.
Oh, wow.
So this is all going well, but we also realized that the founder had different visions for the product itself, and that was not aligning with what we had in our mind. And also we started thinking that why not we do something even more challenging when me, Vidyadhar and Nakul come together. And we were very clear that it will be in the social space only. By that time, Nakul was working for a firm in Europe. In fact, he was doing quite well for an electric car firm. He got an offer from there also.
Amazing.
And Vidyadhar was designing the next set of seating for Indian Railways. He was working with Indian Railways actually. But in 2018, we decided that we'll come together and we'll do something for Indian farmers.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there a bit.
Yes.
So, big jump. Again. Wheelchair, you have worked very hard on it.
Yeah.
All the team. You have a setback there.
Yeah.
A product which is very good,
Yeah.
but situations that are not under your control.
Yeah.
You have to, let's say, reorient yourself right now. So, how does that feel? Because it's not an easy switch. Because you've worked on it, a lot of effort on it, right?
Yeah, blood, sweat and tears actually.
Yes.
To be honest, that company probably did not have much before we went. But in a span of 2 years, it did have something.
That's amazing. That's the value you guys have added to it.
Yeah. And yeah, it was not easy coming out from there. Like my Mavaya even to this day says that you left something very precious and you came out. But I think our strength lies that we can keep innovating.
Yeah.
For others it might be one idea,
Yeah.
but for us it is one of many ideas. And for whatever it is, it's a setback, but it also gives a confidence ना कि हम हमारे दम पे कुछ कर सकते हैं, हमें ज़रूरत नहीं है किसी और.
So you reinvented, like, you started something new. So from there, the journey, I see, it's all like, it looks as of now, I would say from the outside. Of course, inside there are a lot of ups and downs that you have to figure out things, you have to go through the process. But you've still managed to, if I have to put it philosophically, वो 30 degrees नहीं अभी और भी बढ़ गया है. The journey that you've taken is more than that.
True. I mean, from a conventional sense, if you look at it, what we're doing now is again nowhere related to that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's just overnight. I packed everything. I told Nakul and Vidyadhar, so and so date we'll meet in Hyderabad and we'll start.
Amazing.
They also packed up everything. They were in Nakul just came back from Europe that time. Vidyadhar was in Ahmedabad. They just packed everything and we met.
It's like an amazing understanding that you have with your team, and that's one of the toughest things to do, because having a small independent practice that I have, it's the toughest thing to actually find people like that who would have that same wavelength and follow through.
Correct. That way, we are very lucky to have found each other. And again, ties into what NID is and the community, the thing I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
We get each other very well, and it's not just about work. Right. We are now a family. I don't need to explicitly mention that. I find it very cliche.
Yeah.
People say we are brothers and all that, but
Yeah.
I think we get it. Just to give you a snapshot, all three of us share anything that we earn 1/3.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is a practice we've been doing since 2019.
This is okay. This is like a crazy thing that I'm hearing.
Yeah. So anything we earn. So I earn from my practice,
Right,
some
right.
consultancies,
Right.
individual gigs. We get the money, that day 1/3 goes.
Oh wow.
And
I think this is a very good example. I'd like to take a moment
Yeah.
and tell the viewers also that this is amazing, guys. I mean, look at how friends or peers could become founders, working with each other, and also balancing every aspect of it.
yeah.
That is a very important lesson. I think everybody should learn. At least that they should learn from this podcast episode.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. I mean,
It's more about being a person, and then what you do for work, etc., etc., etc.
yeah, I think there have been like talks we had to had when things were not going our way.
Yeah.
And I think what we told each other is whatever happens, if all three of us stick together, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
For example, tomorrow the business closes down again due to some setback.
Okay.
All three of us are confident we'll again start something new. Almost like a cockroach mentality that will not give up.
Right. It's beautiful. That's amazing.
In fact, now we helped each other out in getting married also, right? Because we also seen that we had conventional arranged marriages,
Right.
and the only way that parents would give their daughter in hand to us is if we had a job. And so at different points of time,
Right.
each of us have worked
Yeah.
and made sure that we get married and again come back to the company.
Right.
So they did it for me. I was the first one to get married. Then Nakul worked. He in fact worked for Ola Electric.
Right.
I think some of his designs are going to come on road.
Amazing.
He worked before,
Yeah.
during the company we decided we'll go back. Again, handsome pay. And again I called him and said, come back. He quit, came back. No questions asked. And now Vidyadhar is working, he'll also come back.
Nice. Wow. This is like a, what do you say, modular setup that you have. थोड़े time के लिए ये जाएगा, थोड़े time के लिए वो जाएगा, but we're still balancing it out.
Still balance it. And we make sure that for the person who is working or is now marriage, the other two will balance it out for him.
Yeah. That's a very good understanding that you have there.
Yeah, super lucky that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, during this, we
Yeah,
came back in
right.
2018, and we never started that we'll make shoes. I'll now over the next few minutes we'll see how design thinking can
Yeah.
come up with really novel solutions.
Right.
We only knew we wanted to do something for Indian farmers, and because at that point of time there was a lot of farmer suicide happening,
Yeah.
right? So we came back again. My Mavia gave us a space to stay, and he gave us his car. And he said he stays.
I really want to meet you at this point. I really want to meet you.
He's the first angel investor beyond our parents.
Oh wow.
And he said, use it. I don't have any problem.
Amazing.
Do good work.
Yeah.
Okay. I still have his mail which said, we have great expectations from you. Do something great. So in summer of 2018, all three of us decided, like design thinking, we will not sit in our studio and decide what farmers require. Let us go into primary research.
Right.
So peak summer, we went to Nanded first, which is Nakul's hometown. And when you're in rural communities, you need connects to start interacting.
Yeah.
And we would just go and sit with farmers. And we tried to do what we call as from farm to food research. So basically from them sowing till it ends up in your plate.
Yeah.
We try to try to understand the whole supply chain.
Right.
So the next one and a half year, we met at least 500 people from ranging in different parts of the farming supply chain.
Oh wow.
And we tried to see what are all the problem statements or what are the problems that we are there. Again, a lot of unlearning and relearning. Whatever you read and whatever is there, there's huge difference.
Right.
Why are farmer suicides happening? A lot of reasons.
Mm.
Is there really middlemen who are influencing the business? Yes. Is farmer suffering? Yes. There are multiple reasons for it. I find it hilarious when we read these articles and all now that the reality is very different. It is not binary. It is not that there is a hero and a villain. Unfortunately, people look at it that way, right?
Right.
Government villain hai,
Huh.
farmer hero hai. No. Nothing is binary. Everything is gray.
Right.
Right. So we went there. We would go sit with farmers. I was saying we would also try out stuff. I mean, Nakul and Vidyadhar do come from farming backgrounds. I don't. So for me, again, it was learning. So we would drive tractors. We would do plowing. We would walk with them, sit in these harsh conditions. So we went to Nanded. We went to Kolhapur. We went to Wardha, and this was all what we call as breadcrumb research. So we wouldn't say we would go to a specific place. We would just start. Okay. There someone would say, "आप यहाँ पे जाइए, वहाँ पे कुछ interesting हो रहा है." We would go there. वहाँ से they would say, "आप कहीं और जाओ." During this time, we would stay wherever it is required, eat whatever is available. Of course, rural India food is much more enriching.
Oh,
That's
yes,
again
it
a
is.
learning.
Yes.
We had food in farmers' homes and again very healthy cuisine, fresh milk. In fact, there were rural people who told us that whatever you drink in urban India is not even milk. They don't consider it milk actually.
Oh, wow.
Real milk is something else. Real eggs are something else. Real rice, all that. So we, and everywhere we went, the community was always happy when we told them that we wanted to do something for them. In fact, we did not even idea what we were doing. We would just say कि हम यहाँ पढ़े हैं, हमें कुछ करना है, हम आपके साथ मिलके कुछ करना है. And they were very happy. They would invite, आप हमारे साथ आओ, रहो, ये देखो हमारा, ये problems है. So also what I would say to a lot of these younger viewers who are watching is for any problem there is activism that you could solve it, and there's innovation. We as designers always wanted to solve it from innovation. I'll give an example how that works.
Okay.
Auto rickshaw, drivers heckling, drivers troubling at outside a railway station, outside a bus stop has been a problem for decades.
Yeah.
Okay. And in fact it is one of the worst experiences a first traveler can have to a city. For example, like Chennai or Bangalore, where you feel you're cheated, where you go to only few kilometers or they take you in rounds and they charge you more money.
Right.
Now that is all solved through Ola or Uber. Tech, where you don't even need to talk. The fare might be higher, but there is at least transparency. No more heckling, no more getting cheated. And prior to that, there were a lot of agitations, lot of activism, where they said they will not use meter. Government said you have to use the meter.
Yeah.
But a simple text solved all of that.
Yeah.
So we believe that innovation can solve, if not in a straight away, these generational issues.
Right.
And that is how you need to believe, right, as innovators. You can solve it through innovation, not through activism. Activism has its place. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but we as people who are privileged enough that we received some of the best education in the country.
Right.
We will come, I think we are in the 0.000 some 1%. We need to make sure that we solve it through innovation.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we believe to this day.
Right.
So, this is what we were looking. In fact, we saw with our own eyes middlemen clearly cheating the farmers, where the middlemen themselves told us that हम कर रहे हैं because हमारे कुछ और obligations है, right?
Complex. It's very, very valid and understandable that tech can solve generational problems like you were saying. Now, you did end up understanding farmers and like a lot of problems that you were telling me about it. But before that, I want to see the product and also I want to show the viewers the product that you ended up with.
Sure.
And then I want to talk about, because there's a slight contrast there, right?
Yeah.
Like what you were trying to understand and then what you ended up is a little different.
Yes.
Right? So I want to show the product. I want to see what you've built. I mean, I've seen, but I want to show the viewers because this is...
So this is the product that we have made. It's called Yar.
Amazing. So you ended up with a shoe for the farmers, right?
Yes. In fact, India's first of its kind shoe specifically built for farmers.
Right.
And now the interesting thing about this is it's made from a traditional Indian fiber.
Okay.
If you...
Yeah.
So this upper is made from indigenous wool blankets.
Oh, okay.
Which are locally known as Kambali, Gongadi. And these are hand woven.
Okay.
And we take those blankets.
Right.
And then we made a shoe out of it.
Amazing.
Now all the cool properties about the blanket translate into this. Now the weaving of the blanket itself is a craft which is about 1500 years old.
Oh wow.
Okay. And the blankets themselves, they last for typical 20 to 25 years.
Right.
They thermoregulate.
Right.
And they can be used in rains also.
Yeah.
And we have seen the shepherds use this. So this is woven by the pastoral communities, which go by various names: Kuruma, Kuruba, Gola.
Right.
And pastoralism predates agriculture also.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
so just a bit for the listeners, pastoralism. To talk a little about that.
Sure. So predominantly India has always been an arid, semi-arid nation. There are only a few parts of India which are river-fed or rain-fed, which thrive in agriculture. But even back to the time of Krishna, we have been a community which is pastoral-based. As in we live in harmony with animals whom we domesticate, right? And we get some resources from them, right? So they could be milk, which of course is one of the largest source of pastoralism. There is wool or other natural fibers, and there is aspects of meat, right? Now all of this was not done in like conventional way where it was industrialized.
Right.
It was all free range.
Right.
So typically in pastoralism, specifically to sheep and goats, a typical shepherd would have about anywhere between 150 to 300 sheep with him.
Wow.
He would take them out for grazing for 6 months in a year. In fact, they still do it now.
Oh.
And there are specific pathways that they follow, where the sheep gets all its diverse set of feed. Okay, and that feed is not grown artificially.
Right.
It is, for example, a farmer would be done with the crop, but there's a residue that is left.
Right.
He would ask these shepherds to bring their sheep to feed on this residue. And I came to know only recently that the shepherd are paid in rice in exchange to the services and a fraction of money.
Right.
Okay, see such beautiful system, right?
Yeah.
Eco-friendly. And ऐसे करते he would go.
Right.
And now there are studies which are showing that pastoralism is essential if you want to reverse desertification and want to improve the biodiversity.
Right.
Okay. Now this is broadly what this is, and from the sheep this wool is extracted, so it comes in a form like this. This is called fleece.
You've got everything here today.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So this is similar to hair.
Oh, nice.
This is sheared, right? And then it is turned into a yarn. Again, a beautiful process where there is charka, hand spinning, and this is put on a loom, which is one of the oldest form of loom known to mankind.
Oh.
It's a pit loom.
Okay.
And all of the process is carbon negative, not even carbon neutral, carbon negative.
That's amazing.
Okay, and this blanket is woven. A typical blanket is something like this. It is about somewhere between 7-8 feet by 4 feet, and one blanket weaving takes anywhere between 2 to 4 days.
2 to 4 days.
Yes.
Okay.
And the yarn preparation itself takes about 7 days.
Oh, okay.
Now, interestingly, the yarn preparation is done by the women of the community. Weaving is only done by the men. So there's
right.
So there's some really iconic people who have used these blankets from the time of Shivaji Maharaj to Gadar. They've all used these blankets.
I'm gonna put this shoe here.
Yes.
This is amazing. It also looks nice, actually.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, for the farmers also.
Yeah, they deserve style too.
New age farmers.
Yes.
Right.
So now there are some other smaller renovations that we have done here. So we have reinforcements.
Oh, okay.
This is completely PU molded.
Okay.
Like conventional shoes have a stitch or an adhesive, but that doesn't work in farming conditions.
Right.
Because most of the shoes separate from the upper. Right. This thing separates. But this one doesn't. We have got it lab tested as well. This is high grade PU. One of the best materials to be used in slush in such conditions. Overall like a very super robust construction. You can wear it without socks throughout the year.
Nice.
Unless it's like you completely submerge it in water, which could happen in few farm types, it works exceptionally well. So we have testimonials. In fact, our shoes have been in the field for 2 years now.
Oh, nice. Amazing. So roughly, if I have to ask, how many farmers would have used this? And
so by the end of this year, we'll be impacting about 10,000 farmers.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Through various means. And on the other hand, in terms of craft, we have supported about 20 weaving clusters. We have provided them 15 lakhs in income and about 15,000 hours in employment.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Wow. So this is what you ended up with after the whole process and doing everything.
Yes.
Now I want to know how you ended up here because there is something completely different, like you were mentioning. Give that to me. I'll keep it here itself. Sure. This is amazing. Nice. So, tell me about how you even thought about the shoe. How did you conclude that it is a shoe that you want to make?
So, we were in the villages, and honestly, again, we did not start off saying we'll make a shoe for farmers.
Right.
There were about 20 to 30 problems, I believe, we shortlisted, ranging from aspects of is there a way we can elevate the problems that the farmers are facing with middlemen, like can we do market connects, storage, food wastage that's happening, the whole set of it.
Right.
The 5 problem statements that we shortlisted later, which are actually part of what Earthentunes wants to do.
Right.
The first problem we are trying to solve is the farmers walking barefoot. Because during this time, during our villages, we saw that a lot of farmers are walking barefoot, especially when they get close to the field. And also, it's not that the footwear that they're wearing normally also is of exceptional quality. In fact, most of the footwear that's used by farmers are downgraded versions of what is available in urban India. Anything that's available in urban India, after 2 to 3 years, after the economies of scale are reached, the cheaper versions is what is available in rural India.
Oh.
Okay. And generally when we say farmer footwear, people talk about gumboots. I will talk about why that's not the right solution. So out of the 5 problems that we shortlisted, the first one is can we address the problem of farmers walking barefoot? The second one is, can you come up with an alternative to the present tractors? Because as I was saying, the land holdings are reducing, but the tractor sizes are increasing.
Right.
And if anyone is from the farming community, they know that tractors are not economical at all.
Right.
And we need to come up with a newer innovation. Now, what is that? I do not know. As typical with design process, you will figure it out. The third problem statement we are looking at is, can we come up with an affordable version of a poly house? Poly houses are the environments that are built. The fourth one is, can we address the aspect of rural migration and provide them a respectful lifestyle in urban India for the rural migrants? So there we were looking at aspects of how we could come up with a franchisee based urban farming
Right.
module where you would employ these rural migrants, and where these farming modules themselves would be vertical farming based. You would set them up in dense urban areas and provide fresh
Right.
food
Yeah.
to ingredients to the local people.
Right.
And the last one was agro packaging. So these are the 5.
Packaging. Interesting. So how did you decide that this is a problem to be solved? Like this is the thing that you need to concentrate on, you need to work on this. How did you come to that conclusion?
So typically, like during the primary research, we saw people walking barefoot. They had cracks and they had fungal infections. Now, when you ask a farmer why is he walking barefoot, he would generally say, "नहीं ठीक है, चल रहा है, हम ऐसे ही चलते आए हैं." या they would say कि हमारे पास कुछ है नहीं जो पहन सकते हैं. Okay. There generally is a romantic notion associated that you walk barefoot, it's good for your feet, but the real condition again is very different. We have chemical laced soils, sharp objects, snakes, so on and so forth. Walking barefoot is not good at all. And we also walk barefoot, it is not. Now second aspect, like any problem statement that we see, we don't conclude from it. We came back and did our field research, the literature research. And you know, the numbers are baffling. 1.5 billion people globally are affected because they walk barefoot.
Oh wow.
They get diseases, infections, snake bites, so on and so forth.
That's a big number.
Big number.
It's a very big number.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Second thing, 4 million snake bites in India, 50,000 die annually. India has the highest number of snake bite deaths in the world.
Crazy.
Okay. In fact, walking barefoot and the related ailments have been classified by WHO as a neglected tropical disease, NTD. It kills more people than AIDS does.
That's shocking.
Yes.
That's shocking actually.
Yeah. And third interesting aspect, a typical rural user or a farmer goes through 4 to 5 pairs of footwear per year.
Oh.
As in he uses them and he discards them, not owning. Urban users you own, but you don't discard them.
Yeah.
So just imagine the amount of waste we are adding.
Yeah.
98% of footwear ends up in landfills. It is estimated anywhere between 350 million to upward of 500 million number of pairs are discarded annually.
Huge numbers there.
Yeah. Footwear is the third largest polluter, I think, after the initial ones. So there are multiple levels of problems here.
Interesting. Interesting. So then, conclusion that out of all the observations that you've listed out, shortlisting problems, and then this study also proves that okay, this is the thing that you need to solve.
Yes, it is a glaring problem. No one has looked at it as of yet.
Right.
So, now since we during the field testing, what we would also do is we bought all the footwear that's available locally in the rural shops. So I think there are 5 or 6 types of footwear. We wore them and we walked in the fields.
Right.
So this aspect of gum boots, whether they're conducive or not, I would urge anyone who is listening to this to go and actually try out gum boots in field. They are one of the worst experience you can have wearing the footwear.
Actually, yeah. They're not good.
They keep moving, there's relative motion.
Yeah.
They're extremely uncomfortable, they're very sweaty, and especially if the weather is extreme, you cannot use them.
Yeah.
Now, gum boots themselves are actually not Indian, they're called Wellington boots. They haven't originated in India.
Oh, okay.
They came to here during colonization.
Oh, okay.
And we are still using them and we are forcing them.
Okay.
Okay. So, but unfortunately, rural communities, when you say farmer footwear, they assume it's a gum boot, right? So they ask us कि gum boot जैसा कुछ बना सकते हैं क्या? But we believe that there is a middle ground. That there is a footwear that can be made which is comfortable and durable. And part of that endeavor is this. Now, whether this footwear can cater to all of farmers in India, no. This is the first of our range. For example, we have now come up with our second range of footwear. This is specifically for rural women.
Oh wow.
Do you know that women only wear slippers now and they don't have any specific footwear to be worn in field?
No,
And they would not wear a gumboot because it doesn't even go with their attire.
Right.
Right? And it doesn't give them the, the kind of vibrancy that is available with other part of their attire. So they don't end up wearing anything. So this is again part of our range. It's again specific shoes made only for rural women.
Women.
Right?
Interesting.
Then next we have other range. We are making India's first footwear for preventing snake bites, again for farmers. And I think then it starts. We would like to go crop type, soil type, so on and so forth. Right? Now, so anyway, I'll just come back to the journey itself. Now, we did our research. We decided we'll make footwear.
Yeah.
We kind of knew what the ideal footwear should be. Like we knew that it had to be lightweight. You had to use it throughout the year, and you should be able to use it in the farm and outside of it. Okay, these were the three parameters we set.
Right.
Now this is where we did something very different. Rather than jump into conventional materials like rubber or leather, we said this is a problem which has been there for a long time.
Right.
And we have a lot of natural fiber. India has this wealth of natural fibers.
Right.
So rather than using these conventional materials, can we try looking at some of the natural fibers that are available, right? And also this aspect of sustainability, that numbers were like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And interestingly, now that I'm telling you, Sanjay, when you walk around, just observe the number of slippers you find, which are thrown away.
Yeah.
And you'll find slippers and footwear in all random places. Like from top, in Himalayas you'll find, on serene beaches you'll find footwear. That is how much these things have percolated and we are just insensitive to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we said, let us look at natural fiber. So again, for the next 6 months after this, we again did field study. So first we went to Kerala, where we looked at some materials like vetiver, arca leaf and all that. Then we went to again Maharashtra, where we worked with an organization called Dharamitra, which they were always working with pulp-based fibers.
Right.
Like they were working with banana pulp, jute, cotton.
Right.
And again, the gentleman who runs Dharamitra is an amazing guy, Dr. Tarak Kate. We told him, sir, we want to make footwear. He said, awesome, I'll give you accommodation, stay, experiment.
Wow.
So we stayed for 15 days in a bush forest and we made footwear, something on these lines.
Okay.
So that's completely eco-friendly. The upper is banana fiber.
Okay.
The toe and the ankle that are made from discarded tires. And if you turn it, that's discarded tubes.
Oh, okay.
And this was all stitched by a local cobbler.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So these are some of our first set of footwear we were trying out.
Right.
So this is a good footwear, but then it wasn't meeting the demands that we had set for an ideal farmer footwear. So we experimented there and we moved on. Then next we went to Kerala again.
Okay.
Where we experimented with fibers like coir, screw pine. We were working with local communities. This is again a footwear that we made. The upper is hand woven screw pine.
Yeah.
And the base is felted coir,
Yeah.
which is again hand stitched. Here we worked with again a local organization called Kids in Kottapuram, which is being run by underprivileged women who are either widowed or physically supported by the local church. Again, we stayed there, we worked with the community and we came up with this. Again, good footwear, but not for our requirement.
So how much time did you spend on this?
This is, I think in a day, we were able to come up with the design. Nakul and Vidyadhar understood the process very quickly.
Right.
And we taught the women how to make this.
Right.
And they were able to make one pair in about 3 hours.
Amazing. Crazy.
Right. So, like this, we experimented with almost like 15 natural fibers.
Okay.
And so most of the place where all of these fail is water. All these natural fibers have a problem with water.
Right.
So we were then going around in Maharashtra. Then there's one guy who told us that there's this material which people use in rains. and you should go and work with it.
Right.
So we thought this is a superstition, like typical urban guys ki nahi hai, aise hi bol rahe hain. And we have a video, in fact I can show it on camera now,
Sure.
where if you can just pass on that blanket to me.
Sure. Yes. There you go.
So we put this on Nakul's head and we poured some water.
Oh wow.
So that is the lotus leaf effect.
Right.
Okay, and you can feel this inside. You can just touch it on the underside.
Yeah. It's completely dry. Yeah.
So this is magic.
Right.
Okay.
And this is something that is available locally.
It's available locally.
It's not any expensive fabric that we import from outside.
No.
Right? It's crazy.
So this was mind blowing to us. Like when
Yeah.
we put this and we did this, and like if I do this, it's completely almost dry now.
Yeah.
So how do we know this is like? Then when we started getting into depth, we saw that actually shepherds wear this in rains. The community who are using this.
Right.
I told that they go for the 6 months grazing, right?
Yeah.
This is what stays with them throughout the time. So they use it for covering themselves, they sleep on it. And as they keep using it, it keeps on getting softer and softer and softer. Right, so
Very interesting material.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, something like that, and we don't use it.
No, we don't.
We don't use it.
So this has all been declared as coarse fabric by the West. And then we just discarded these. We started moving to polyester and
Right.
acrylic wool and such things.
Yeah.
But this is like wealth that is there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the craft itself has its problems now, and I'll also speak about how through the
Right.
shoe
Right.
and larger endeavors we are trying to revive the craft as well.
Amazing.
Right.
That's crazy. So, I'm actually taking time to process all of this. This is a lot of things. You actually walked me through quite a bit here, because this is where you started, right? This is where you started,
Yeah.
the first one.
Yeah.
And then you made 15, 16 of these with different materials, like you said, natural fibers. And then you ended up with that.
Yeah, so we discovered
material.
this, okay?
Okay.
But then making a shoe out of this was another challenge.
Another challenge, yeah.
Right? So then...
I was actually coming to that because that feels... I mean, I cannot think if that could be made into a shoe.
Yeah.
Just like that.
No.
It's not. So how did you figure that out?
Oh, it wasn't easy actually. So the thing is...
before you do that, did you ever think that I should give up? बहुत हो गया? Or did you ever feel like, यार ये क्या मतलब इतने materials, you know? I know that there are a lot of materials, but did you ever feel like
No.
it's difficult?
No, we were thoroughly enjoying all of this. If anything, like the only thing we were feeling guilty is, we were doing it on our parents' money. That's we had come up with, we have reduced our spending to such an extent that we could live off 8,000, 10,000 per month.
Wow.
But then again, there were things which were being given to us at free of cost, like my Mavia's car and all. Right. That if you again take it, that's different. But overall, yeah, all three of us, like, we learned how to live frugally because we were living in rural India. We realized कि actually इतने से ज़्यादा ज़रूरत नहीं है. And an added value is Nakul and Vidyadhar cook amazing food.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So if there was a requirement, we would cook also. So that.
Is it something? Is it something about the transportation design? Because I also cook.
Yeah, even I learned cooking later. Although I don't cook that well, could be. Maybe transportation, nomadic lifestyle, all of this comes in. So
Interesting. So yes, tell me about the figuring out part with that material and to the shoe.
So once we came to know this material, we came back and we met some interesting people who were working with this wool economy for some time. So we started working with a gentleman called Mr. Khanna. So this all, reviving this comes into social sector. And we come from an entrepreneurial background. So we learned that there are a lot of organizations who already tried working with this material and reviving this. So this was called Gongadi locally, right?
Right.
And when we connected with them, and then they showed us this aspect of how the wool economy is failing, their last set of weavers, beautiful craft, but no one knows about it.
Right.
So that's when the idea also formed that if you're able to make good products out of these and sell, you would create enough demand for the raw material, and we were also contemporizing it. We were giving a very different application because people stopped using them in the form of blankets.
Yeah.
It was only limited to a few people in the community. We were trying to see if repurposing them can give them a new look and purpose. Now, converting that into a shoe itself was not easy. We made, I think, close to 60 prototypes. Nakul learned how to crochet this fabric. So,
It's another skill there.
yeah, so what I'm showing you is some of those early prototypes. So, we bought this in yarn form.
Okay.
And Nakul learned how to
Yeah.
knit. Crochet is a type of knitting.
Yeah.
And he made this, right. We also learnt that we cannot depend on others to make shoes. So we learnt, we bought a stitching machine, we learned how to stitch, we learned how to make a shoe completely.
Interesting.
We made, yeah, 60.
Hands-on, completely hands-on.
Completely hands-on. Because what was happening is convincing people कि इससे आप जूता बनाओ,
हाँ.
इससे भी जूता बन सकता है. People would straight away say कि इससे जूता नहीं बन सकता. Simple. Okay. So
Right.
we got frustrated actually. Around the same time IIT came and IIT said we liked your idea, but you have to prototype and show us that this works. So they offered us pre-incubation at that time.
Right.
We applied to a lot of people. I don't think anyone even got what we were talking about. Taking a traditional craft, making a farmer shoe, they said ये तो कुछ ज़्यादा ही complex है. And there was no tech involved, right? So
Yeah.
if there's no tech involved, people wouldn't get it. So IIT invited us to Chennai. They said you have to stay here, but you have to make 30 shoes and sell. And we'll give you 3 months time.
Okay.
So that 3 months was trying to convert this material into a shoe.
Wow.
So we would go to local tailors, request them, local cobblers. None of them, either they wouldn't get it, or even if they would get it, they were hesitant to work with a footwear. So the interesting thing is a tailor, he or she who works with apparel would not work on footwear because there are some caste dynamics there. It comes under load, something which is done by the lower caste.
Right.
So we got frustrated. We bought a sewing machine. We learned how to stitch. We learned how to make a shoe, and we made prototypes.
Right.
And finally, a small cluster in Ambur agreed to make these 30 shoes for us. We were able to prototype, but making 30 shoes, you need skilled people.
Yeah.
So we went to Ambur and we made this. So this is our first shoe which we took for field testing. So we made 30 of these.
Looks interesting.
So it is hand stitched and stuck.
Right.
Okay.
Again, the journey.
Yeah.
Look at
So,
this.
so why we didn't go? This is knit and that's woven, right?
Yeah,
so why
exactly.
didn't we go with knits? As I'll tell you, we were able to make good footwear with knits, but the time taken to make a shoe was about 4 hours because you have to hand knit it,
Yeah.
and you cannot afford that amount of time for a farmer because the costing goes up,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And in fact, knits are ideal even now, but then we also tried to see if we can fasten the process. Is there a way you can use a machine?
Of course.
But we learned that this in the present machines that are available, you cannot knit it. So we went to NIFT, where we tried knitting it, but it wasn't happening.
Right.
So then we realized that why not we directly work with the blanket itself. Blanket has strength.
Right.
So we learned how to cut patterns. So there's a way of making shoes, right? There's pattern cutting and then you last it and then you make a shoe. So this is all again self-learned from the community or self-learned. We would go to these shops or these clusters and they would say कि आप ये ऐसे कर सकते हैं, जूता बन जाएगा. So this was made in a cluster in Ambur. We made 30 of them and then we went to Kolhapur.
Okay.
Where we had to test. And this time we picked monsoons, black soil. Very challenging for any footwear.
Yeah.
And the challenge, IIT had given us that you cannot give the shoe for free. You have to charge some token amount. So we would take these shoes and walk farm to farm and ask them, would you like to buy? So they would like it, and they would, so we would ask them pay us at least, 100, 300, something like that. A slightly richer, like if it is a farm supervisor, he was paying 500 also.
Okay.
But it was a farm laborer, he would pay 100. So ऐसे करके we sold them out in like 1 week.
Oh, wow.
We made about 5,000, 6,000 in money. And we put all of this in, like we had our stuff, like laptop and all. We were traveling back in a train,
Right.
a second class sleeper,
Right.
and all of it got stolen.
So now you have to show the IIT folks that this is the money that we got.
They believe, ऐसा नहीं, but so my bag which had the cash, my watch, my wallet, my laptop, my tab, a guy picked it up and got down from the train in a place called Wadi. The next day I go to the police, they're saying there's nothing we can do. So that was again a hard reset. I lost all of the stuff. Yeah.
Because laptop would carry a lot of things,
all
right?
of it. My graduation work, everything was in that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you told that give up karne ka man kiya.
Haan.
These are very, very devastating actually. But again, like we picked up. IIT said they liked it, and they offered us full incubation.
Nice.
I told completely relocate to Bangalore. To Chennai. Take a home. We will provide you working space, and we will provide you financial support.
Nice. Cool. So you got your incubation in IIT Chennai.
Yes.
So how did things progress from there? Now you had like made 30 shoes and sold it successfully.
Yeah.
So did you get any feedback from them? So how were the shoes, and like this is the one, right?
Yeah, that's
this is the one we were talking about.
Yeah, the feedback was not good.
Okay. All right.
So that was again a learning for us. Interestingly, this material, it doesn't allow any adhesive to stick to it, and even the stitching doesn't hold the shoe well. Also, that also showed us that we need to come up with a different form of construction of the shoe itself.
Okay.
Because these things, although the farmers bought and they were part of the community that we knew, these things I think maximum they lasted for about 1.5 2 months, and that was not something we were looking at.
Right.
We had to come up with a much more robust construction, and whatever ways we were trying to stick the shoe, it just wasn't working. In fact, we also collaborated with the local adhesive group in Chennai, and even they couldn't crack how to stick this material. So that's when we realized that we had to come up with an alternate way, and we started looking at PU molding. So PU molding is a conventional shoe process that's already used, but it's not very common nowadays because of other limitations. For example, it is too cost intensive. There's limitation of styles. Right now, whatever you see, the construction, including the shoe that you're wearing, it's called cementing.
Okay.
Basically, the upper and the lower part are stuck together.
Yeah.
So that was not an option we had. So the next almost 6-7 months, we were searching on what could be an ideal way to construct.
Oh, wow.
And now we started exploring places to see if someone would be willing to do this PU molding for us. We went to clusters around Chennai. So people didn't understand this material.
Right.
Even if they understood, our scale was too small. Hundreds, who is going to work with hundreds of shoes? Then we went to Mumbai to see if anything is there. None. Hyderabad, no. वैसे करते करते we ended up in Agra.
All the way from Chennai to Agra. Right.
So there's really this gentleman called Raina with whom we are still working now.
Nice.
Who just saw that we were these young kids who were trying to do something interesting. He said, come, we'll figure out something. So the thing with any of these new clusters, if you don't have connects, it's very hard to get in. No one is going to entertain you.
Yeah.
So we went to Agra. We had a meeting scheduled with Mr. Raina, but we were still searching around that. is there some way we could figure how to mold this? No place actually. Like there were some guys, they said we just cannot work with this material. This is not like leather. You know, predominantly Agra works in leather.
Yeah.
Right. So then we met Mr. Raina. He said, you know, I can make this, but I cannot recalibrate all my machines for wool.
Yeah.
You'll have to get your upper done somewhere. I'll do the molding. In fact, during our time in Chennai, he was kind enough. He molded one shoe and sent it to us. I think I have that. Yeah, this is the first shoe he sent to us.
Oh, okay.
Almost 2 years old now.
Interesting.
So then we got confidence कि हाँ इससे we can make something.
कुछ बन सकता है.
बन सकता है.
Right.
And this was reliable pasting.
Yeah.
Reliable addition. Unlike this, because that's where we were very scared कि we cannot release a shoe which will tear in 2 months. So
interesting.
We went to him and initially said this, but then later somehow he liked that we were hustling so much. He said, "चलो मैं आपके लिए जूता पूरा बनाऊंगा."
Oh.
Yeah.
He agreed.
He agreed. Because he saw that we came to him. We came multiple times after that to Agra. We were trying to prototype and show him कि सर आप पर यहाँ पे बनाएंगे, आप यहाँ पे ऐसे डिज़ाइन चलेगा क्या?
Right.
He said चलो आप इतना ट्राई कर रहे हो तो मैं बनाऊंगा आपके लिए. And it's actually a loss for him. We learned that later that he doesn't make not loss. You could say no profit, no loss. And for him, he's a world class exporter. He doesn't do any business in India. He exports now about 4 lakh shoes per year.
Oh wow.
For him, a scale of 10,000 also is nothing.
Yeah.
And at that time, we asked him 1,000 shoes. Because that was all our funding was allowing us. We were given 10 lakhs by IIT.
Yeah.
In that, we had to do R&D and also do a production run.
Oh wow.
So he said we'll do it, and now the challenge is where do we get the raw material at this scale? Yeah. For now we were only buying 1 or 2 blankets. Then for that we went to another cluster in Karnataka, found this weaving community in a small town called Gorlakatta, which is in close to Chitradurga. There we found these blankets. We transported them to Agra. And Agra, they started making shoes. And wow, kudos to them that they had to do a full R&D to how to make a shoe out of this, calibrate their machines. But we cracked it with them. Yeah. In fact, there were a lot of novel processes which were brought into to make this material workable as a shoe, for a shoe material. Now, we requested Raina that, sir, we want to test these shoes in lab before we take them, because we want that confidence. We don't want them to tear, because once if we release the shoe and it tears, that's the end of our brand. Yeah. Said no problem. So just it's opposite to IIT in Chennai, there's an institute called CLRI, Central Leather Research Institute. They work with footwear. Right. And they have actually footwear testing equipment. Right. So there are some global standards called SATRA, and according to SATRA, they do the testing. Okay. So we got our shoe tested in 14 parameters. Okay. Very importantly in the addition. Okay. And we saw that actually it is doing exceptionally well. Oh, nice. And also the material that he's using, PU, is one of very superior. So there are some tests which are done for shoes. So for example, one is, it's called the tear test, where you try to pull the upper apart. Our shoe had the best addition in the market. Oh wow. Even in comparison to molded leather shoes, because I think because of this woven structure, the material was able to interlock much better. Second is they do something called flexing tests. You know, they flex this. Right. The general standard is like 2.5 lakh times. If it's sustaining beyond that, it's good. Ours lasted for 5 lakh cycles. That's amazing. Yeah. That's like double. Double, yeah. And that is credit to Mr. Raina. Yeah. The kind of material he uses. It's very, very good. In fact, he uses the similar material for making shoes for Northern Europe, snow and such conditions. Oh, wow. Yeah. So he gave us the best possible material. Impressive. Yeah. And then, of course, making an upper and all that stuff. So we have double reinforcements, quad layered. So our shoe is quad layered and all that. So that we figured out while we were making. So we had these 1,000 shoes now with us, and we got them tested, and we were fairly confident that we have a good product at hand.
Right.
Now, how do we reach farmers? Now that's where I think all these people whom you have met, and once they've seen the product, they're so happy. They wanted to help. So like Kanna connected us with some local news channels.
Right.
And overnight we just started trending like crazy on LinkedIn. We were featured on New India Express, then Better India, so on and so forth.
Right.
And so the shoes, we gave the order, but we were yet to come to our warehouse.
Right.
We received pre-order for 300 shoes.
Okay.
That was like when farmers started calling us saying, we were looking for this kind of a product. There's so much, there's a requirement. We'll test it out. And by the time the shoes came, we were flushed for 1 month. We were to dispatch, and we were learning dispatch. So we had one intern who had come from IM, a very brilliant guy, named Rahul. So he set up this back end, drop shipping, e-commerce, all that.
Right.
And we started taking pre-orders also through website, in fact.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then as soon as shoes came, we started dispatching.
Right.
And our shoes at that time went to 16 states.
Wow.
Across. We got very positive feedback from some places. And in places like Paddy, we realized that the shoe has limitations. Right? Paddy is something the shoe as of now cannot address. And it is something we are working on in our next models. But apart from Paddy, we saw that it was doing brilliantly well in soya bean, cotton, tea and coffee plantations.
Oh, interesting.
That's very interesting. In fact, we never designed it for that.
Yeah.
So the prickly nature of this material, it doesn't allow leeches to come.
Wow.
Okay, which is a problem in coffee.
Yeah.
So we have some of our a large customer base in Coorg and all who have ordered.
That's amazing.
And Nilgiris as well for tea.
Yeah.
Then we have specific clusters in Maharashtra who really love the shoe, and they keep ordering multiple times. So organically these shoes almost got sold out. But during this time, we connected with the wool economy, and there are other initiatives like Desi Own, which is actually a national level initiative taken by a few NGOs who are trying to revive Indian wool. Okay. This is the time we also realized that Deccani wool, which is this wool, is not the only wool that's available in India. There are all other types. There's a few wool from Kutch, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand. We got connected to all this wool economy.
Right.
Then we realized with a few of our well-wishers saying, if you're making something for farmers, can you try something for urban India also, since you have such a great product at hand. But then we realized that this level of coarseness which is there, which might work well for the farmer feet, might not be preferred by urban. Yeah. So that's where we figured out a softer version of the wool which is available in Uttarakhand.
Oh. So this is for the urban. Yeah, this is actually very soft. Right.
Again hand woven.
Yeah.
Again a craft from that place. Again carbon neutral, all that, carbon negative, all that stuff, but softer. Just because of the nature of the sheep that is available there. Right. So we started experimenting. So we used the same design, but we made a premium version of it. Right. This material is expensive compared to that.
So something that started, that you're solving a problem for the farmers, while you're still doing that, now you're building a brand for the urban population as well.
Yes.
There are two very different markets that you're catering to.
Yes.
Right.
Which was again not very recommended by any of the people, but we were again hell-bent that we will do it. And during this time we also realized that although the shoe is of exceptional quality, it is still not at a price point which can be afforded by farmers. So we also got this idea that why can't our sale of urban shoe subsidize a part of the cost for the farmers.
Right.
So which is a model we still follow now.
Right. So how much would the farmers spend to get a shoe?
So the original cost of this is 2,200. Right now the farmers have to pay only 900 for it. Now that 900 also is now being subsidized since we are collaborating with CSR initiatives of brands
Okay.
such as Wells Fargo, ITC, who again stepped forward and said, you're doing something for the society, we will try subsidizing part of it.
Let's also define CSR for listeners.
Sure. So CSR stands for Corporate Social Responsibility. It is a mandate given by the government that 3% of your profits, I believe it's 2, 3, I might be wrong,
Right.
have to be put in for social causes.
Okay.
Now, every company does a lot of CSR work. They have every brand, depending on what they want to portray, have core domains. For example, education, empowerment, gender equality, so on and so forth. Some of them work purely in the domain of agriculture. Okay, and they give money to the development sector, the NGOs and so on and so forth. So we receive funds again through IIT because IIT can receive these funds, and but the company, when is giving funds, clearly says that this is the kind of portfolio of a brand we would like to work with.
Right.
And we were lucky enough that there were few brands who were willing to fund us in this regard. So we received, in fact, this year, we're doing almost 7,000 shoes just through CSR.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And CSR also helped us in a different aspect. So what was happening is, prior to this, we tried selling shoes, as I told you, through direct sale in rural, where we would go to farm and that.
Yeah.
Also through website, the traction we were getting, that's fine. But what was also happening is, since we were putting a subsidized price of the shoe on the website, even urban users were buying the shoe, and it was not intended. Halaki we had the urban version itself, which is about 2,500, 3,000. People were obviously buying
Going for the
cheaper
lesser one.
version.
Yeah.
So that's when we realized that if you truly want to impact farmers, selling through website is not the. And how many of farmers are tech savvy and are even aware of the brand?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's when we realized that with the CSR, we can collaborate with these FPOs, which are farmer produce organizations, or companies which are working with these FPOs, and donate shoes through them, and make sure that the shoe reaches farmers only and no one else.
Yeah, makes sense. That makes sense.
So now, like for this year, we are collaborating with two very, very esteemed organizations. One is CSA, which is Center for Sustainable Agriculture, and one is Vikasa. CSA works in organic farming in Telangana, Maharashtra. Huge. I think they work with almost 50,000 farmers.
Oh, wow.
Right. And Vikasa works with the tribes in the Araku region, mainly for growing of millets, coffee, so on and so forth. So they said this is a requirement. We would love to help you.
Right.
And we will make sure that this reaches only the farmer beneficiaries.
So, venturing out into the urban segment, also sorted out things for the farmer segment also, in a way.
In a way, I mean, yes, we realized that the customer acquisition cost in a conventional way for a farming or farmer was very high. We would go to farm exhibitions and all. Decent sale would happen there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we don't make any profit per se on the sale of a farmer shoe, right? And so going to each of these places, we were losing money.
Right.
So we had to find a slightly more sustainable manner to do it.
Right. So moving to this switch that we're talking about, or let's say transition, not the switch, but the transition, on venturing out into some new area for the brand, the perception needs to be built.
Sure.
Like I work with brand strategy with my clients and some experience I've had. So your story needs to go out. You have a very, very strong, driven team that you've been, solving problems through the way. You've had quite a journey. Now, when you're placing it in the urban market, how was that market? Like when you started out, like what were the challenges that you had with this?
So we are still in the process of building an urban brand. I think there's a lot to be done. And of course, urban space is very competitive.
Yeah.
And Now the uniqueness, as you rightly mentioned, of our brand is the story and the community aspect.
Right.
Now sustainability is one of the aspects. In fact, it is inbuilt. It is one of the most eco-friendly materials.
Right.
But then it's not commonly known. You know, a lot of people wouldn't even believe that there is indigenous wool. And then when you say something like wool, they don't associate it with Indian weather. However, indigenous wool can be used in Indian weather. So there is this mindset and perception change. Having said that, right, I think the three things we are looking at for urban to get the story across is, we are calling it 4C: craft, community, and climate change. Now, craft, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the very few products in the market which is able to contemporize a traditional craft and give it a new meaning.
Right.
And we ourselves, in terms of our impact,
Right.
have provided employment and income to these craft communities.
Right.
Secondly, the community aspect. We are co-creating with the community itself, and we are providing value at both the source end as well as the final product.
Right.
Sourcing end, of course, the weavers and the pastoralism, and on the final product, the farmers. Right? I think we are one of the very few brands probably in the world who is able to complete this loop.
Yeah.
And climate change, I think here I would take a minute to speak about pastoralism itself.
Right.
There is a UNDP report which says that if you want to reverse desertification, pastoralism is the way to go. If you want to turn barren lands into fertile lands, pastoralism is the way to go. And now the world is realizing it. In fact, the grazing lands that these animals go, they seem barren at the first glance, but they have this grass, and sheep and goat eat most of the biodiversity that's available.
Right.
Those are the largest carbon sinks in the world. What does that mean? If you convert any of these grazing lands into agricultural lands, you are releasing all the carbon that they hold into the atmosphere, and that is estimated to be about 5 billion kg.
That's insane. That's insane.
So now there are schools of thought which are saying pastoralism has to be protected and in fact be encouraged to build back the ecology.
Interesting. So, if somebody is buying this shoe, is contributing to all of that.
Yes, he is helping reverse climate change. He is helping support community. He is helping support craft.
And also making or enabling you to get this subsidized for the farmers.
Yes.
Wow. All right. So, after getting to know about the shoe and all the 4 C's that you talked about right now, right? If somebody is purchasing a pair of shoes from you, Earthentunes, then they are contributing to climate change. Then they're also enabling you guys to subsidize these shoes for the farmers.
Yes.
Right?
That's right. Yes.
That's actually a very good feel-good factor for the customer who is actually purchasing these shoes, right?
Besides this, of course, the aspect of craft, community and climate change.
Of course, yes.
These are great shoes that can be used. They provide both comfort, durability. You can use them without socks. And just to also show, we have also released our new range of shoes which are naturally dyed. Again, an eco-friendly process. Again, where we are involving the community.
Right.
And we also just released our newer women's range as well, with very vibrant colors, very cool. Indian. So, I think like our shoe has this like very unique proposition where it ticks the boxes for what makes a great shoe,
right?
While also making sure that you're contributing to climate change, craft and community. So I believe it's like a whole package that we're able to get out with this shoe.
That's amazing. So what do you see the future of Earthentunes to be? Would you be only making shoes, or what would you be doing in future? Let's say, because there are so many problems to solve, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think one lifetime is not sufficient. Just we understanding this problem with farming, and then the wool economy itself has opened up so many doors. So going forward, I think we are firstly looking to scale up, both on the farmer side and on the urban side. On the urban side, we are keenly looking on building a brand based on getting the story across to people. We believe this is a story that needs to be told.
Right.
And probably it could also encourage other designers and other innovators to get into this kind of space. And in terms of farming, we are planning to collaborate with much more CSR or larger brands to see how well we can impact as many farmers as possible. Our target is that we want to impact 1 million farmers. And then in terms of the craft itself, there are now newer doors that we are exploring, because we also realize that if we want to reach scale, we have to scale up the back end as well, where we have to strengthen the whole craft economy. So we are working on that. So we are now part of a few projects where we are trying to revive the traditional supply chain of wool, and we're trying to bring in aspects of a GI or a wool mark kind of a thing, because there's nothing of that sort which exists for Indian wool. And we're also seeing if we can bring in traceability.
Interesting.
Where you as a consumer, you buy a shoe, you know who, where, in which part of India it has been made, where the wool is sourced from, what breed it is, who is weaving it, all that stuff. Because that we believe will give the more mark of authenticity.
Interesting.
And then there are other larger projects that we are looking at. In fact, we are working on this unique materials where we are trying to so there's a composite material that we developed. We are trying to bring in this for the snake bite protection, which is something I mentioned earlier. So we are going to build probably the world's first reliable shoe for snake bite protection. So this material is inspired from scales.
I see that.
So it provides both flexibility and breathability.
Right.
While being able to stop a fang from piercing. That is another project we are working on.
It's amazing.
So this is a proprietary stuff, so I cannot divulge into all the details.
Sure. But very cool, huh?
Thank you.
Very cool.
And we're also developing packaging completely using wool now. So if you remember, one of the earlier domains that Earthentunes is also looking at is
the fifth one.
Yes, the agro packaging. So we were able to develop a few prototypes where the results are very, very encouraging. We have in fact started field trials for it.
That's nice.
And sustainable, lightweight, purely with wool and few other materials. So that's broadly what we are doing.
That's amazing. Wonderful journey. I mean, I've seen from the first, like, I still want to see it again. This one, this to that, right? Then quite an amazing journey you've had. And I mean, as designers, we tend to get lost in the process, right? That happens so many times. Happened with me also. So many times that you set out to solve one problem, and then you discover so many things. And then instead of prioritizing the problems, sort of get lost in, okay, this is the cool stuff. Let me do this. This is what will make me look good. Let me do this. This is completely speaking from a very designer point of view. What the, let's say, a young designer would want to do, Like, for example, you've had your switch from the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, to completely let's say, assistive products that assist people, right? In that lobby that you mentioned. So many people don't have that journey.
Right.
Many students or young designers don't have that in their journey. They want to go and make products or design products. Let's say, I want to work at at an agency which is the top agency. Now to reach here, to make it look like this, to make it commercially viable, you've gone through that journey. Right? Now that is something that is very easily overlooked.
Right.
Not everybody goes through this journey.
Right.
And from my experience also, even before I was starting out, started my own independent design practice, I was briefly a creative head for one of the electric bicycle startups. That was when I just moved back to India. They'd asked me to be part of it. And coincidentally, that was also based out of IIT Chennai.
Okay.
I'll not name it. But that product, we designed it, an amazing bicycle, electric bicycle. We were building a brand. But the founders, there were 5 of them. And all hardcore engineers. So the synergy wasn't there.
Right.
As a result of that, our product that we designed, put our heart and minds into it, which felt like it had a soul that can carry it. And till then, there was no electric bicycle in the market.
Right.
And that never saw the light. Right. So these kind of things do set you back.
Right.
Right. Then, of course, that process teaches a lot of things. And in your journey also, you've had setbacks, right? You have occasions where you felt like, okay, frustration hai, bahut hai.
Yeah.
Right? It's not an easy journey. And right now we are just sitting and talking. It feels like, okay, ye hua. But how did you get through it is a different journey altogether, right?
Yeah.
So it's to bring it to this, I think it's an amazing journey that you've had.
Thank you.
An amazing journey that you've shared. For the viewers also, I'm sure people would be inspired to see and to learn from this and know that design process is not just the fancy things, It's not the cool thing, meko car designer banna hai, kyun Ferrari design karni hai. It's not that. It's this.
Yeah.
It's what we do here,
Yeah.
right? It's the reality. It's the groundwork that needs to be done. It's the strategy that you would now be thinking for the future to do what to do with Earthentunes, right? Its length and breadth of it is, it's vast.
Right.
It applies to so many things. So, I'm really happy that I've had this conversation with you and I've had the opportunity to actually talk about this and understand in detail about the whole process. It was wonderful. And right now, I want to move to the last portion of the conversation that I wanted to have with you today, was that you are, apart from all of this, a social entrepreneur, right? You're an engineer.
Right.
Hardcore. Then I moved to designer.
Right.
A hardcore designer at that.
Right.
Solve problems. Then entrepreneur, social one. And now you're a dean, assistant dean at Voxen Design School in Hyderabad, right?
Yeah.
Like on the outskirts of Hyderabad.
Yes.
So how did that happen? Like, when did you feel like, okay, I want to teach? How did that happen?
So, interestingly, we have been associated with teaching at Voxen on a part-time basis for very few courses since 2016-17, around that time. And then we realized that bringing our field learnings into the classroom actually was giving a very different kind of an exposure. It was also helping us refine our understanding, because if you're able to convey this ethos to young minds and you can convince them, there is some merit to it.
Right.
And also we are able to emphasize this aspect of, going to the field for finding the question and solving it with the community, which again is like a slight evolution of design thinking. And also to take pride in what makes us Indian. Right? I think that's the third aspect, because design as such is not an Indian concept. It's there, but we never termed it like that. It's a Western thing.
Yeah.
Right? All the design movements, Bauhaus, all that stuff. So for us, it was also finding a soul of what Indian design meant in this.
Right.
So personally, from a selfish standpoint also, because for me, I don't like it when India is not in the top. Right? I feel, why isn't it there? Like we should be there, and I want to contribute to that. Top 5 designers. See, if I ask you to name top 5 designers, even you cannot, right?
Yeah.
This was also an understanding for us to see what Indian design meant. And there are a lot of contradictions once you start looking into Indian. Like minimalism doesn't apply. Color is something we thrive on.
Yeah.
Where the world shies away from color. So these are some interesting things we learned. So that's what we're trying to bring into classroom. And adding to the fact which you said with your example of a bicycle also, I believe designers should be entrepreneurs. Now, entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily mean that you have your startup. It is a mindset. See, because we are taught to be visionary in our thinking. So what makes you think that you can follow someone else's vision? In fact, if anything, it cripples you, right?
Right.
You always see, no, there's a better way to do it. No, if I did it this way, it would have been better.
Right.
So then why not do it?
Right.
Because for me, entrepreneurship is predominantly 2 things. It's first product and then network. Everyone else struggles with the product. We excel at the product. They try to do a product market fit after they have designed the product. We start with the user.
Yeah. That's true.
We first figure the market, the need, and then we design a product.
Yeah.
Then we are actually the most bankable people if you look at it. The risk is the least with us. Because we are not talking from what we've read on Google or read on Facebook or Instagram. We are talking about on-field experience. We truly see the pain point. Second thing is, we are very good with finding solutions. It is this jugaad and this mindset that's built into us, right?
Yeah.
You need to build a prototype of it with whatever resources you have. And more often than not, these resources are inadequate. Right? But we have the strength to still bring it into life. And we don't work around bullshitting, which I told earlier also.
Yeah.
We are only evaluated on what you can see physically and what works. So I believe we are the best people to do it. And that's the exact ethos I'm trying to bring into wherever I'm teaching, is how can we build the next generation of change makers. Okay?
Right.
Now, change isn't necessary that it has to be social. Okay? It is not that it is idealistic. Change can be in any place you work, right?
Yeah.
You can be working for the biggest brand, bring about change. You can start something on your bring about change.
Right.
You probably become a political, or you get into policy tomorrow, there also bring change. And I want designers to be everywhere. They should be in policy making, they should be in defense, they should be in healthcare, they should be in education, all that stuff.
Right.
Right. Now, and I'm trying to contribute in that way. And during this time from 2017 to this, I realized that I really enjoy teaching and inspiring the next generation. Now, coming to Voxen itself, Voxen is a private college, which is it's a university which has 7 schools, of which School of Design is one part.
Okay.
And I'm the assistant dean there. So the college itself inherently has a multidisciplinary approach. You can interact with people of other disciplines, unlike probably some other colleges.
Right.
What Voxen has is ambition. They really want to prove something. They want to grow, which might not be the case with some of the other established colleges. And I really like that vibe that they have. That they have something to prove and disrupt. And there we are trying to bring this ethos of change making. So we equip our students with the basic tools for employment and all. But once that is done, we want them to solve the biggest problems in the world. So you know of system design thinking,
Yeah.
social innovation, and also since this is in away from the main city, among villages, we try to work with the local community. And we have also seen that when we take this approach, our local solutions have a global impact. For example, one of our students' startup ideas being incubated at IIT Hyderabad.
Okay.
You know what he made? He understood the problem of the local street vendors and made a EV scooter which can turn into a stall in less than 5 minutes.
That's like a straight out of CEED question.
It is, right? Yeah. It is. So, exactly, that's what he did. But it's a classroom project.
Oh yeah, but then amazing.
We have, again, I told you the market is already done, researched.
Yeah.
He found the gap, he made a solution, it's a workable solution.
Yeah.
He pitched, he received funding and incubation.
Amazing.
So I think that is something which needs to be brought across design schools and design education is become entrepreneurs. So let us say tomorrow his venture also doesn't become a commercial success. I hope there are good signs it will become. You have at least shown that you can build a product. Now what better thing to add to your portfolio than that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So, and now we are collaborating with very large organizations in domain of climate change, gender equality, sex education. We are bringing those problem statements into classrooms,
Right.
and asking, chalo, let us work on this. So that beyond what we do in Earthentunes also gives me some sense of satisfaction that we are able to magnify our vision.
Yeah.
Among these young kids.
Yeah.
And if you're able to inspire them at a younger age and bring about that profound change, at least in their future, they will be slightly more empathetic and more sensitive. Once you spend time in rural India with the communities, you realize these things.
And this also brings me to the part that I'd make a very controversial thing here. This is probably going to divide the audience here. But I'm still going to say it because I think this needs to be said, that this whole thing requires you to, for a person to go through a process. It cannot be, a 3 months course or a 4 months course. Right? You being in the education.
I get where you're coming from.
And I'm coming from, I've been mentoring design aspirants for a few years now. And every year, I do get calls from parents or brothers, elder brothers or sisters. हमारा बेटा बीटेक कर लेगा, उसके बाद 4 महीने का कोर्स कर लेगा, डिज़ाइनर तो बन जाएगा ना ऐसे. Right? This is the sort of mentality that sadly it is becoming.
I understand.
On one side.
Yeah.
Because of how these marketing campaigns are running.
Right.
2 weeks course or workshop and you become a UX designer.
Yeah.
1 week workshop for UI design. I'm not saying they're wrong.
Right.
I'm saying they are for a different set of audience.
Correct.
Right? They're not for people who want to venture into design and become designers. So, what do you think about these things? Like the way it is going on in India right now?
I think one is certainly it's flattering that other people want to become designers.
Yeah.
And we are all for it.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think it's important that we do define what exactly, or the rigor that goes into actually becoming a designer. Because a designer as a word itself is so loosely used and one of the most misused terms, right? People from who could probably do photo editing to someone who's probably designed the logo of IBM are all graphic designers.
Yeah.
Now there has to be some level of distinction here. And this also brings me to a very interesting quote which was done by one of a visiting professor to Oxon, Mr. Shujoy. He made a very interesting point. He said an architect is very clear from a person who is a civil engineer. Right. A civil engineer cannot claim that he is an architect.
Right.
A natural medicine practitioner cannot call himself a doctor.
Yeah.
Or a person who has learned first aid cannot call himself a doctor. Right? Because you will be sued.
Yeah.
Similar with law. because I just read few books, I cannot call myself a lawyer.
Yeah.
I need to practice, earn a degree. I think design also needs to have some sort of control like that. On if there are some criteria that you need to tick to call yourself a designer. I think that's not like a single person
Yeah.
job. I think we as a country, all the design minds need to come together and see how we could bring some sort of quality control, because if not, we ourselves are destroying our own this thing. And again, I'll quote another awesome professor whom I look up to, Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt, who's one of my very senior in NID, who's done some phenomenal projects. He said, there's a ministry for IT, telecom. Why isn't there a ministry for design?
Yeah.
Because design does play a vital role. So
Yeah.
I think it is something we need to start pondering over and see how we could get design into the larger echelons. And this is not just for financial this thing or recognition.
Yeah.
Because in fact, even I think UN released a report which said the future jobs that we are looking at is creative problem solving,
Yes.
design thinking and all that, because of advent of AI.
Yeah.
There are some things which I think the nuances which only we can pick,
Yeah.
right? And probably which no other artificial intelligence can pick up. And that has value. And so we talk about design being able to intervene in product, process, organizational system and policy. So we need to take the step ahead, show that we can add value,
Right.
not being in our silos, that it has to come from designers also. It is unfortunately there's some blame on us that we did not propagate design. We are small bunch of people. When we felt कि हम हमारे इसमें ही खुश है, and we are also taught to be humble, so we are very poor at marketing ourselves.
Right.
I think that needs to change. We need to talk about the great work we're doing. We need to talk about the great projects that are happening in colleges. Own up to them, be proud.
Yeah.
And once you're successful, people automatically will follow you.
Yeah.
See, people talk about Steve Jobs, his design, minimalism. Why? Because he was able to build a commercial venture which is worth billions.
Yeah.
People talk about Cybertruck's design. Why? Because it's a commercial success. We need these examples from India also.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So when you say that, every year the students that are getting into design, it's increasing, which is a very good sign. It wasn't like this when you and I were starting to think about design.
Certainly, yeah.
Right? And we did not have people like this talking about design, which is going out onto the digital platforms. So people are getting aware of it, and at this point where there is information available. So what is it that you would like to tell the young minds who are aspiring to be designers, or who want to consider design as something that they can pursue? What would you like to tell them?
Well, this is something I tell young minds all the time, is if you're passionate about any product, it could be digital, physical, something which inspires you,
Right.
you should get into design. Because it's hard even to articulate the kind of domains we could work in. For example, culinary, music, all of that also can be intervened with design. So I would say, I think if you want to get into a course where you'll enjoy yourself for the rest of your lifetime, design is it. Right? It is I could say a lifetime of pursuing a hobby. And generally what you have is this, you hate what you do as a day job, and you have you enjoy your hobby more.
Right.
Design is a chance to make the hobby as your day job. It is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
People who sketch at young age, they become designers, right? And how did they get in? Because they liked drawing cars. That's how we got in, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a unique opportunity. Second thing which I was mentioning earlier, you have the freedom to get up any morning and solve any problem you want. That's the confidence that design gives. You want to be a shoe designer today? Great. You want to design wheelchairs tomorrow? Great.
Yeah.
You want to do something else later? Great.
Yeah.
You have the tools to it, and you're per se not accountable. You're just accountable to yourself. You just need to gauge whether you're successful, you have reached the goals that you've set for yourself, and then start afresh.
So this is more just reinforcing the fact that it has a lot to do with your mind, the way you build your mind, the way you build yourself, and then what you choose to follow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's enough research to show that even the greatest minds, at some point of time, they cannot just stay in one domain.
Yeah.
All of them are multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
I think the best example, we have someone like Leonardo da Vinci, right?
Yeah.
He's believed to be the first industrial designer. The guy is multidisciplinary, and the only way you could collate and put his work in one place is design.
Yeah.
See, that's the power we have. He was a polymath and a polyglot or something I heard, right? So you can, like, whatever you learn, it still blends in here. Or rather, you start design and then you explore whatever you want.
Absolutely. So, to the parents or the guardians who are not so well informed about design, what would you like to tell them?
Yeah, so I was recently speaking to a parent who asked me this question that, do you think engineering is good or design?
Right.
I said, the world has enough engineers now. And first is to gauge what your daughter or your son is interested in. And if he truly is on slightly on the creative side, you should get him into design. And also the second aspect, that the future is of problem solving.
Yeah.
You are making your child future proof, where the days of sitting behind a desk and writing code are going to go away. It has already started. There are mass layoffs happening in the best of the companies, including Google, Microsoft.
Yes.
Do you want your son or daughter to get into a place where there's already risk, or get into a place where he or she can adapt quickly to whatever the requirement is?
Yeah. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah. And then it comes to employability. I think some of the best jobs, high-paying jobs, especially if you just talk about UI UX, which is a core design field, is eye-watering.
Yeah.
And India is now moving from a service-based economy to a product innovation-based economy, which means the value of core designers is going to improve even more.
Yeah.
Right? Until we were service where the core product was innovated somewhere and we were only told to work on the other aspects of it.
Right.
Engineering, and that was relevant. Now we need core innovation. We need people who need to give a vision. And design is one of the best fields that equips you to be there.
Absolutely.
Engineering was, but unfortunately, the way it is taught now, not so much.
Very well summarized there. All right. Thank you for shedding light on this, and also taking out time for doing this podcast episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm 100% sure that this journey would definitely encourage people to not only to pursue design, but I think to believe in their abilities, to pursue them, to stand for what they believe in. That also is actually a very important trait that a designer should have. That because वो नहीं होगा तो फिर entrepreneur नहीं बनेगा. वो नहीं होगा तो फिर he won't be able to defend his project in front of the jury also.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that I think is very important aspect that we have communicated today to the listeners, and also we've touched upon various things, and this episode is a gold mine, I think, for whoever understands it. And then thank you again for doing this. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah. And I just a shout out to my team as well.
Yes,
Titiksha,
yes.
Anish, Nakul, Vidyadhar, my mentors in IIT, family. Without them, I don't think it was possible. To our friends, NID.
Right.
So, thank you. Thanks.
It's a pleasure.